All right, we are back with another Pick'em video. Going to be talking my favorite plays for Monday Night Football. We got two birds, battle of the birds if you want to call it, Eagles versus Falcons, and it's a 5.5 point spread in favor of the Eagles. I'm going to break down my favorite plays, show you guys some stats. Don't go too crazy into one game. You make the big money days when there's a lot to different to choose from, different sports, different games. That's when you want to go heavy. Don't go too crazy on one game. Throw something down that you're comfortable with to make the game a little bit more entertaining. And again, we're going to do our best to give you guys the best plays for today on the PrizePicks board. If you're not on PrizePicks either, use code RichPicks or just use the link in the description. You're going to get $50 if you bet only $5. So that's kind of an awesome little promo there. You don't even have to put too much money in. Put $5 in. Bet the $5, they're going to load you up with $50. You're also going to get a free month of my Discord where we're always talking sports, talking props, talking plays, and you get access to any of my slips right when I make them. I put them in the Discord, and you can go ahead and tail or pick and choose your favorites from there as well. Let's jump into the board, talk some Eagles and some Falcons, and we'll get out of here quick for today. So jumping into the desktop screen here, I got PrizePicks loaded up, and the first play is going to be Saquon Barkley. Going to keep it very simple on this one. No A.J. Brown, like I mentioned earlier, so the offensive load is 100% going to be Saquon Barkley, obviously Jalen Hurts at the helm of things, and then DeVonta Smith. They're not going to go too far off the beaten path, I don't think. You could, look into some Dotson plays if he gets a reception or two, maybe 3 receptions, but he just doesn't have a history that I like to see, even dating back to last year where he could be some big yardage guy, albeit his line's only around 27.5 yards. But I'm really just focusing on Saquon Barkley here. They are 5.5 point favorites. We saw them win last week against the Packers by 5 points. And, once they took the lead in the halfway through the third quarter, it was the Barkley show. He ended up with 24 carries in that game, 132 combined yards rushing and receiving. And again, rushing attempts were high, and they won by 5 points. If we see a very similar script to that with this 5.5 point spread, I don't see any reason why they don't keep feeding Saquon. If he can get in the end zone or two, if you think he's going to get in the end zone maybe twice even, maybe go to his fantasy score. But I'm really just liking this rush receiving defense or rush receiving combo here at 99.5 for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, I just talked about a little bit here, but you see 99.5, everyone else up at 101, 102, so kind of trending in the direction. I wouldn't be surprised if this bumps to 101, by closer to game time, but we'll take the little discount here at 99.5, and I think it could be the Saquon show. Going into the projection model over here, this is RotoWire. I know I'm bouncing around tools, but if you're interested in any of the tools I'm using, definitely check out the links in the description. It's a great way to support the channel. And we see his rush receiving yards right on top. They're pretty solid prediction on the leaning the more here. We saw the pick'em sites, a lot of these at 102, 10, even 8 over on Sleeper. We see the Sportsbooks are all up at 100, 101, and RotoWire's projection model, they're also saying 101. So 101 seems like kind of the line here. So that's all we need if we're taking over a 99.5 combo. And Saquon should be able to eat. Dating back to last year too, I want to point out the fact that obviously the Giants don't win a lot of games by 5 or 6 points, but you see the hit rate here, 29%, when they did win those games by 5 points, where we might see the Eagles, winning by tonight. He went over that in 2 of the 3 games, and one game he missed. He went to 97 yards. So hopefully the Eagles, that's kind of the game script I put into my head, that they are going to come up, win this game, maybe take the lead like they did in the third quarter in week 1. And feed Saquon, get over 20 carries or so if you want to be looking at his 18 carries line. A few different ways to play Barkley here. Rush attempts is 18.5, so that was at 18. Again, 20 rush attempts, 99.5 yards. I could see him getting a few receptions for sure. We saw Najee Harris play pretty well against this Falcons defense last week for 70 yards on the ground and 9 yards in the air. So 79 yards for Najee. I think Saquon can go and get there, 20 more yards for us to break over that 100 mark. So that's the first play of the game. Saquon Barkley over 99.5 rushing yards. And I got another Eagle to talk about here in DeVonta Smith. Now, a few different ways to go to him. I'm kind of landing on his receiving yards at 72.5. I don't love playing these guys together. Obviously, any yards that DeVonta Smith can get, Saquon can't get. But I do think that the Eagles are gonna go out in there and win this game. There's gonna have to be some yardage somewhere, and I really do think this is gonna be the focus of it. Do I think Dotson? I keep seeing the Juwan Dotson line at 27.5, 28.5 keep getting thrown out there. I think he could. He just doesn't have the history. He's been in games where he has 80-90% of the snap share, and only sees 1 target, 2 targets. He didn't get over 40% last week, but obviously that's going to rise. I just can't really trust him. These are the 2 guys I do trust. The last time we saw DeVonta Smith play without A.J. Brown was last year against Tampa Bay. They got smoked in that game, but DeVonta went for 150 yards, I think, in the air, which is doubling this line. 12 targets, 8 receptions. He had a really, really good game, even though they couldn't get anything going. Now, the Falcons have had a pretty good defense in terms of passing yards allowed the past year, but we'll see. I do think DeVonta Smith's going to be the main guy. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. So if you want to look at his receiving yards, if you want to look at Smith's receptions at 6.0, his targets at 9.0, I think you could go to all of those. And again, I don't love putting these in the same slip just because it contradicts each other a little bit, but their offense has to flow through something, and I just think those guys are the two guys. So DeVonta went over this line in game 1. Forgot to pull up his outlier. Let me get that ready. Got it pulled up right here. This was week 1 against the Packers, 84 yards. He might have led the team in yardage that week as well, even with A.J. Brown. So without A.J., going to get a huge boost. We see ending 2023 as well. Obviously, really, really good over this in, 6 of the last 8 games. That's a great hit rate. Games he's missing as well are just going down to the receptions and targets if you are kind of looking into that territory. He's going to get over the 72-yard line more than he gets over, that 6 reception line or the 9 targets line, I think. So again, I don't love comboing Saquon and DeVonta of getting all these yards, but I think that is the way that I'm kind of favoring it as well. There's a fairy horn going off. So DeVonta, really, really like what I'm seeing. Again, you see Atlanta's receiving yards allowed last year. They didn't allow a lot of receiving yards, specifically to the wide receiver position. But new year, obviously new teams, things change. And we talked about Najee Harris. We also saw George Pickens go for 85 yards on 6 receptions. Another kind of reason where I like the yardage line a little bit more than his 6.0 receptions line. But I think both of them have a really good game. I think this is going to be the core part of the offense. If you find a Jalen Hurts line you like, there was one interception line that I liked, actually taking the under, even though he gets an interception pretty often in terms of the games. That got taken off the board. So I'm going to stick with this for the Eagles players, Saquon and DeVonta Smith, keeping it real simple and running out these two. And then moving into the Falcons side of things, I'm keeping it very simple again. Drake London's going to be the main target for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins only had 16 completions in the first week, and Drake London only had like 15 yards. I think this is a great opportunity for a bounce back, especially if they find themselves in a close game. They have a few 2-minute drills, maybe at the end of the half, maybe at the end of the game, whatever it might be. And we see Kirk Cousins go for more his 35, 40 attempts like he likes to do. He likes to throw the ball. And Drake London should be getting the targets, and he just needs to be converting and finding some yards. We can see that the defense he's going up against, the secondary he's going up against, is not the best in the league. They give up a decent amount of yards to wide receivers dating back specifically to last year. Again, going to be a different defensive scheme, but even in the first week we saw Jalen Reed for the Packers go for 132 yards on 4 receptions. That 70-yard bomb. We saw Dobbs go for 50 yards. We saw Tucker Kraft have a 30-yard reception. So there's definitely still the pockets, whether it's the tight end, whether it's wide receivers. They give up a lot of yards dating back to last year and through week 1. So I'm going to trust Drake London here. Doesn't have the best hit rate in terms of this fantasy score line, which is what I'm going to be focusing on. The other one I kind of would look at is going to be the longest receptions line. A little bit better hit rate, 44% of games last year, as opposed to his fantasy score only going over in 31% of games. But again, you see the target share. He's very, very close in a few of these. He's not a big touchdown guy. I think he only had 2 touchdowns last year. But if he does get in the end zone, they give up a lot of touchdowns to wide receivers. One of the most, again, dating back to last year. We saw Jaden Reed for the Packers get in the end zone. So hopefully we get a similar kind of game from Drake London here. Just got to convert on those passes. I know it's still early in the season for Cousins in London, but they're going to find that connection eventually, and they got to keep feeding each other to do so. So Drake London, 12.0 fantasy points. I don't even know if I said the line, but that's what I'm going for. I'd look at his 60.5 receiving yards. That's where I was really going to go. It bumped up from 56 to 60, so now it's not great market value, but you could still take him at 60 yards if you wanted to do that. I'm taking the fantasy score because I love market value. I'm not going to take, if I can take it at 56 somewhere else, I probably will do that, and I probably will go ahead and do that a little bit later here. Looks like Underdog has it at 57. Why would I take it at 60 on PrizePicks? But they do have a good fantasy score line, 12.6, 12.9, 12.5, 13.2, a bunch of other places. So they're saying he might go, decently over this line, more like a 13.0 projection. And that's kind of where the RotoWire projection model's at as well. They're projecting 13.36. So London's my guy for the Falcons today. I think Bijan could probably have a great game. maybe go over 100 yards, rush receiving as well. But that's kind of the weak spot of the Eagles defense has been how much yardage they can give up to specifically wide receivers, but just in the air in general. And if we see Kirk Cousins having to play from behind, he likes to throw the ball, and they got to get that connection going for the rest of the season. So Drake London is going to be the guy for the Falcons, and then keeping it very simple for the Eagles, Saquon Barkley over 99.5. Rush receiving, and DeVonta Smith over 72.5. If you don't want to play them together, I don't blame you. Maybe throw it into a two-man. Maybe you have some other sports you want to be looking at. Regardless, pick and choose your favorite ones. You never have to tell me exactly. I'm just pointing out some lines that I like, that I've researched, and sharing that with you guys. So that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. Maybe you can pick and choose your favorite ones. You don't have to take all three, but we'll try to go 3-0 like always, and if not, we'll be back at it tomorrow. You're probably wondering where I was during the weekend. I had one more busy weekend. I had to do something else. I wanted to get the videos out, but couldn't be as active as I wanted to be. There was also a wedding and stuff going on in my hometown. So I'm back to the grind. We're back at it, so I'll see you guys tomorrow for Taco Tuesday, and maybe talk some other slips if there's value on some other platforms. Check out the links in the description. It's a great way to support the channel. Leave a video a like, comment something down below if you want, and subscribe if you are new. We'll be back at it again tomorrow.